Bar for bar album reviews. Kevin Allen, Nothing Lasts Forever. Nothing Lasts Forever is the latest album from Bay Area rapper Kevin Allen, formerly known as Erk Tha Jerk, and follows his last project, Heroes Eventually Die. Given the title of this album and the way it begins, a lot of you would probably assume that it's going to be pretty somber in tone, but I'm sure as you listen through the rest of the project, you'll see that it's a bit more meant to be uplifting and as kind of a reminder that nothing lasts forever. The other part of Nothing Lasts Forever is that Kevin really wanted to make something that would last. Like, instead of just kind of throwing something out there and seeing what sticks, he wanted to make something that was more timeless in nature and not necessarily something that you could pinpoint to a particular era. Another thing with this project is that it has 3 separate acts, each of which, while maintaining their own distinct sound, flows really well into the next. The first act contains the tracks, Nothing Lasts Forever, which is the title and kind of a spoken word sort of intro, as well as the songs Franklin Saint and Oh the Irony. In the intro, we start off by hearing someone say, "Once I get tunnel vision, I'm on my shit," which is then followed by a woman's voice saying we're all in this gray area, essentially saying that we're all just kind of here in between everything. We're in the ether, and while we're on our journey to learn about ourselves or learn something, we really find out that the answers that we're searching for are within ourselves, and they have been within ourselves since the beginning. This also really does set the tone because it's really just saying, like, whatever happens or whatever you're going through, it's temporary. Like, nothing lasts forever. That's one part of the title, I feel. Like I alluded to earlier, the other part of Nothing Lasts Forever is also that not everything that we do will really last beyond a couple weeks, months. So whatever you're doing, is it actually going to last? Is it going to last forever? But going into the other part where whatever you're going through, like, it's a good reminder, because in the moment we obviously feel that we're overly stressed, like there's a lot of things happening to us, but we have to remind ourselves that this too will pass, essentially. Like, this is only for the moment. But yeah, also, like, just throughout this intro, it's really just kind of setting the tone. And like I alluded to in the beginning of this video, it may sound a bit somber, but things start to pick up pretty quickly with the first track, or song at least, Franklin Saint. One of the major focus points for me is, it comes from the bridge where it goes, "Children dying, mothers crying. It's so hard to be a dreamer with all this pain inside me," which kind of alludes to the positivity within the darkness sort of thing. So, like I said, nothing lasts forever. Whatever is going on with you will eventually pass. So this is kind of a reminder in that sense. Whatever you're going through right now, like, you're still trying, you're still working through it. And it's not easy, but eventually we'll all get through it. It also does seem like this track, Franklin Saint, as well as the intro, Nothing Lasts Forever, both kind of do the same thing, where it touches a little bit on a lot of what we'll be hearing throughout the album. We do also get this similar sort of feeling on the next track, Oh the Irony, but there's a little bit of a twist to it. Here, the whole idea is irony and kind of like oxymorons. So the biggest one really being, like, we have a demon trying to meditate, and Kevin's mention of not rushing to paradise too soon and hoping that it won't be like hell, or won't be hell. We have these very distinct, like, parallels. Like, you have a demon who's generally seen as a negative thing trying to meditate, which is generally seen as a positive thing, and then paradise and hell. The bridge is really what makes the song for me, though, because he mentions that his confidence comes in waves, and how things really aren't how we plan them to be all the time. Like, this, kind of goes into the idea of nothing lasts forever even further. Like, we don't, like, our confidence coming in waves, or his confidence coming in waves, could really just be like, we're not always 100%. Like, we can't always function at our full capacity. And when we are, that means our confidence is working. And these waves are kind of, you could think of the things that come to pass. So you may be in that lull right there, but that eventually will pass and you'll start going up again. But you also have to remember that whenever there is good, there is bad, which is kind of what they talked about on the intro as well. This then starts to go into Act 2 with Radio Raheem, Childish, and Unwind. The title Radio Raheem comes directly from the film Do the Right Thing and features Ian Kelly, and it references the film quite a bit throughout this track. Overall, it's a really solid track, and Ian Kelly, he's always solid, so when you see him on a track, you know it's going to be dope. But this flows really well into Kevin's hook and verse. Overall, this track really, it's a really fun song, but for me, it seems like a good transition point to the second act, where we're talking more about, I guess, what some people do. Regarding the track, though, Kevin's hook, "Eyes are the windows to the soul," I heard. That's just a really, it's a very simple statement, but the way it comes in, it works really well. And I enjoyed that. As we go through the rest of Act 2, we have Childish, which, I'm not going to lie, almost sounded toxic the first time I listened to it. And I mean, it very well could be. I mean, especially just given the hook from Jane Hancock, who, again, she's just amazing. And she had some credits on Oh the Irony as well. But we also get a verse from Rex Life Raj. But Childish really just seems to be about how we grow as people, and the people that we may have had relationships with in the past may not have necessarily grown as we have. The reason I would lean more towards that really comes from the hook, where Jane's taking us through a relationship where in her past where the other person just didn't really show up. It's all the, I do all these things, or you promise all these things, but when I need you to do something, that doesn't happen. Where are you? That sort of thing. But she's kind of learned from that and grown, hence no longer being childish. We also do get a little bit of that from the end skit between Kev and presumably someone he was in a relationship with or involved with in some way. But before that, we have a verse from Raj, which is just great. And it almost sounds like he's going back to his childish ways. So it's kind of contradictory, but it works really well still. Going back to the skit at the end, it is interesting because he's calling her and he's like, "What you doing?" And she's like, "I can't be doing this. When you're done with him, hit me." It's kind of funny because that in itself sounds kind of like something you do in your past. But sometimes you people still do that. But this goes really well into Unwind, because with Unwind you have basically a track where Kevin's trying to, I guess, show reasoning for why people do these things. We all need somebody we ain't gotta lie to. Sometimes when you're in a particular relationship, you may feel like you can't be yourself, or you can't fully open up. So you seek out people maybe from your past, or just people in general that you really just feel comfortable with. Is that necessarily the right thing? That's debatable. I don't subscribe to that, but you should feel comfortable with the person you're with. If you're not, there's something wrong. But with the rest of the track, we also have them talking about how you just gotta take time for yourself. You gotta do things for you. You gotta unwind. So it's not necessarily just about that relationship aspect, although it kind of leads in with that. We also have a verse from Guapdad, which I don't know why I was surprised to see, but it was nice to see still. that ends Act 2, and then we go into Act 3, which begins with God We Tried and Glass House. With the God We Tried intro, we have some harmonizing, and then we get into the actual track. The track itself really just seems to be a response, I feel, to Act 2, and really just Act 1 also, and kind of touches on how we are doing our best. Like, there's all these things happening in our lives, and we're just making our way through it. This kind of feels like one of those songs that could very well and very easily be preachy, but as you're listening to it, it's like, nah, like, you kind of start to resonate with it. It's just a fun song too. Like, the hook is constantly stuck in my head, round and round like a carousel. Like, come on now. That's another thing that I wanted to bring up. Like, throughout this album, the hooks, whenever they are there, because it's not on every track, they're very solid, which isn't the easiest thing to do. I'll tell you that. It's really hard to balance bars and choruses and hooks. This goes into Glass House, featuring Monty Draper, and is the final track. The whole idea of a glass house, like, it comes from the, like, you don't throw stones in a glass house. Like, you're not trying to break the windows. You're not trying to let people in. But you could also think of it as everyone's able to see what's going on. So are you going to try to be you? Are you going to try to ignore what's happening around you? Or are you going to try to be what you want people to see? Another way to think of it, at least from what they were, at least what I got from it, is that this glass house is kind of like, hey, this is what's going on with me. Here, take a look. This track is solid too, and it's a very interesting closer because it's so heavy and so hard hitting. Like, it's just, sonically it sounds a little bit different than the other tracks, but it's still a really good fit. And I'm not gonna lie, the first couple times I listened to it, because I didn't see the features, I didn't know that Monty was on it. I thought it was someone else entirely, and I was like, who are you? Turns out Monty just wanted to rap like someone else. I forgot if it was his idea or if someone said, but what if you just rapped like someone else? So he chose to rap like Gunplay. So it was a dope track too. And definitely a good, like, it was a very fun change. And obviously the bars are there, so we'll get into that later on. But then the album is completed and we get a finale, which is just the Franklin Saint track, but the live version of it. And honestly, every time I listen to this album, I have to listen to that track as well, because it's just fun. It's a great way to close the album, and this is the perfect track to do it with. I mean, I guess be warned, it is a 9-minute version of the song, so if you don't want to listen to it, that's totally fine, I guess. But it's just done so well. And as I wrap up my thoughts here, one thing to bring up is that there was a lot of actual instruments used on this album as well. And that's not something that we see as often these days. And it's also not something that we see credited as often these days. So shout out to everyone who contributed their actual instrumentation. But anyways, like, this album just overall it's been really solid. Personally, I got the chance to listen to it a little bit early. So shout out to Monty for sending me the project. And I've been sitting with it for weeks. And at this point, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to put out the review because I have just so many thoughts. And it's just very hard for me to put them in a very concise video. This album is really solid. And if you haven't listened to it, definitely give it a chance. Like, I think if you listen to the whole thing, it's like 36 minutes long, I believe. Yeah, 35 and a half minutes. And then if you choose not to listen to the live version of Franklin Saint, it's only like 26 minutes. So a very quick listen, which I think was very intentional given the current state of music. but also I feel like Kevin didn't want to put too much extra into it. As far as it delivering the message of Nothing Lasts Forever, I think it did very well. And it didn't do it to the point where you're just constantly getting beat over the head with it. And that's something that Kevin does very well. Like, if you've listened to Heroes Eventually Die and watched my review of it, there's a lot of moments where it sounds like it's giving you a message that could so easily be preachy, but it just doesn't do that. And it just delivers it well and sounds well while doing it. My favorite tracks on this album are all of them. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, there's 10 songs total, and honestly, out of the 10 songs, there's 8 actual songs. Because we have the intro and the interlude for God We Tried, and then we also have Franklin Saint, which is basically a redo, but it's still a solid track. But they're all just really solid songs. My absolute favorite song, though, like if I had to pick one, it's probably between Franklin Saint and Glass House. That's all I got to say, because I know I'm going to just continue to ramble on about this album if I don't stop myself. But before I forget, this Saturday, November 13th at 6 p.m. on this YouTube channel, Bar for Bar After Dark returns, and joining me are Kevin Allen and Monty Draper to talk about Nothing Lasts Forever. So, if y'all have other questions and just want to learn more about the album, let me know in the comments below. Also, while you're there, let me know what you thought of this album, if you liked it, what your favorite tracks are, and yeah, like and subscribe if you want to see more reviews and content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.